everybody, it's Oksana. Today I'm going to show you how to make this little handmade clasp for your chains. And this one's a little different because I am trying to make it extra strong. Like if you notice these little wraps around here, I know I've seen some clasps where it's just like a, like a figure eight or just a big, circle, and it can theoretically come open. So for me, I want kind of a dainty little clasp because I have a thin chain, and so I'm using thin wire. I'm using 20 gauge wire, and because of that I have to do these little wraps for extra security so that when this is pulled it doesn't come off. And I do hammer everything. If it's looking a little flat, I do hammer it for extra strength. Just this hook portion and then this little loop as well, since this is thinner wire. So if you want to see how to do this little handmade clasp, then just keep watching. So I'm going to be using 20 gauge wire. I'm going to be using this tool here. It says Bead Buddy on it. I got it from AC Moore, so that's all I know about it. Zuron pliers, wire cutters. So let's get started. My chain is pretty fine, so I'm going to try and make a relatively small clasp. So I'm going to give myself some room, like an inch of room. I'm going to bend my wire at a 90-degree angle. I am going to use this tool now. And this is the size I want, is this here. So if you wanted, down here, you would obviously put it there. So now I am bending. Let me try and get closer. Bending this around so that I get a little loop like this. Here it is from the other side. You can see that little bend I made. So now you can hold that with your fingers or with some pliers, and we're going to bend this little tail. So I'm just going to bend it up one time. Now I'm going to put on my chain. My chain is soldered, so I can't open up the link to put it on later. If you can, then you can do that. So I'm just going to slide the chain on before I proceed. Alright, so now I'm holding it again. And now you just want to make as tight as possible little loops. Alright, so I like to do 2. And then I like to just cut it. The other side. So this little end, we need to press it down so it doesn't stick out, so you can't feel it. Just make sure it's pressed down flush against this other wire. There we go. Here's what we have so far. Now, holding this with just the tips of my pliers, making another bend. And now I'm going to make another little loop. So in this case, I'm going to do the same size. Perhaps you want another size. So before you cross this over here, here's what you have to think about. Let me get my camera to focus. Okay, so see how this wire is like coming this way? So you want this wire to go the opposite way. So in this case, I want it to go this way. See what I mean? So it kind of meets up with that other little end of the wire. You'll see once I do this. So now I'm looping it around. And one more loop. Okay, so let me get this off. I'm going to cut it. Alright, so now you can see what I'm talking about those two little ends meeting up. with each other. So here's my end right now, and here's the other end. So they're coming together, so to speak. I'm going to pinch it down. Pinch down this little end. And I mean, they're not going to be like perfect where you can't notice it, but if you do it nicely, I feel like it just all flows together nice. And if you have a way to hammer it, I'm going to hammer it. I'm going to show you in 1 second what I use. Alright, so here's what I used to hammer. I have this block, steel block I got from Michael's or AC Moore. I have this chasing hammer I got from eBay. So I can't really do this on camera, but I'm just gently going to hammer just this little point here. And all that's going to do is just make this loop a little stronger. I'm just going to hammer this one here. That's sticking out. Can't really hammer this with the wire, with the chain in there. It just makes it stronger, more durable. That's all. Just very gently. Alright, so here it is. It's been hammered. Just looks like a tiny bit flatter, that's all. So now we're going to do the other end of our wire. And one thing that you want to do, like sometimes, this one's pretty tiny, but sometimes if I have a tiny little pendant and this piece is, not so tiny, it doesn't fit through the bail. So in which case I would put this through the bail right now before I make the hook. So this way the pendant is on the chain, because you're not going to be able to put the chain on afterwards, if that makes sense. Okay, so again, leaving a little room here. This is probably less than 1 inch. Bending it. I don't need a particularly large loop here on this end. I guess I could have done the other loop tiny too on the other end. I know I didn't, but I'm just doing the tiniest one that you can do. Why doesn't my camera ever focus? Here we go. Can you see that? There. So literally the same thing that I did. And before you wrap this around too much, oh, I'm wrapping the wrong end. I'm going to take my chain, which is all tangled up, slide it on. Okay, so now you can hold it with your pliers and wrap this little. And you can do this however many times you want, because we're not going to be meeting up with it the way that we did on the other one. I just like the look of 2. So now, let me flip that over. And this is pretty flimsy wire, 20 gauge. You might want to consider using 18 for this hook part, but I'm going to hammer it very well to make it nice and strong. My chain is just very thin. This is for a small pendant, so I really don't want to go much thicker than 20 gauge. So okay, now this is all by hand now. Bending this a little bit, forming a little hook basically. Shake that around, form your little hook. Like so, and then just going to cut that off, and I'm going to take some round nose pliers, and I'm going to take the little tip here, just going to make a little tiny curly, and because this pendant or this chain is kind of small, I'm going to really try and get this as compact as possible, because I just don't want it to be very large. Okay, and then you can kind of play around with your hook a little bit just to make sure that you like the shape of it and it's, you know, how you want it. But basically the way this clasp works is the hook goes through the little hole. So I'm going to go and hammer this real quick. Alright, so here it is. Looks a little flat because it's been hammered. So here is my little handmade clasp. Thank you so much for watching.